So Nisha, Tom or Jerry?
Jerry.
Tom all the way. He's just trying to do his fucking job, man. Back in the dark ages of television, better known as the 70s and 80s, whenever the BBC needed to fill for time, they would invariably do so with cartoons, and more specifically, with Tom and Jerry.
First of all, we need to establish why the BBC would need to fill time.
Yes, because there might be some people out there thinking, well, wouldn't they just show advertisements or commercials, I guess, for Americans, like every other channel does? And that wasn't really an option for the BBC, and it still isn't, because the BBC, unlike every other channel on television, does not show ads because it is like funded by the public and it's seen as a public service, and you can't just use a public service to shill shitty products. And as a result, the BBC found that between shows, there would be like a small but like, not insignificant amount of just dead air that they needed to fill. Because even though they were a public service, they still had to worry about audience retention rates to justify their existence. And when you've just got 2 or 3 minutes of dead air, audiences will switch that shit over immediately, even if the alternative is watching ads, because at least they're watching something.
I think now they just use like trailers for other BBC shows instead.
Yeah, or sometimes they do like minute news updates, things like that. Or they have those really stylistic, just like BBC title cards.
Yeah.
That they use like B-roll from like nature shows sometimes. Like was it like the hippo swimming in a circle? Is a famous one.
Something like that, yeah.
And people probably wondering, what the fuck are you talking about? Because I'm not sure if that's an American thing, but yeah, the BBC has these like really elaborate sometimes just title cards to show that you're still watching the BBC. And the famous one is just hippo swimming in a circle, which has nothing to do with the channel, but they have it.
I think sometimes they have just people standing like what looks like the Peak District, sort of just stood there staring at the camera like,
hi.
Okay.
The thing though I like about the BBC is because they're funded by public money, they have to you put regional programming on. And I think ITV has to as well, because they are partially funded by the licence fee, so they have to have some regional news programming. So they have Look North. And I fucking love Look North, because you have to have someone on there with a northern accent. So it's the only time you'll watch like TV and there'll be a guy with a northern accent and like, yeah, that's right. Damn fucking straight. Represent. Let's go. The thing is though, do you know the northern accent helped protect Britain from the Nazis in World War II?
No, I did not know this.
Well, because they found out that German and Nazi spies could perfectly emulate received pronunciation, which is, people don't know, it's like how posh people speak in the UK. But they couldn't emulate regional accents, because regional accents have a lot of distinct qualities about them, which make them very difficult to mimic accurately, because there were just like little idiosyncrasies in them that a native speaker of English would recognise, even if they're not from that geographical location. So during World War II, the BBC brought on a guy, I think it's something Pickles, I think his name was. And he's from the north and had a really broad northern accent, more broad than mine. And loads of posh people ended up complaining, going, oh, you're sullying the good name of the BBC with this tripe, this trash on our network. And he saved them from being infiltrated by Nazis. Fuck yeah, you're welcome, everyone not from Yorkshire. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Yorkshire.
It's so good.
So good.
But you got people make complaints about it. It's like, oh no, that's not speaking the Queen's English. No, he's speaking fucking with an accent, dickhead. The thing I love about British accents, though, is that they change like every 15 miles.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever heard that?
Yeah.
Where the British accent noticeably changes every 15 miles, which is unprecedented in other areas of the world.
So do you have a favourite regional accent?
What, to the UK?
Yeah.
Okay, I think it has to be the Yorkshire accent. Just because it goes so broad. It like varies like how broad that it goes. Like, 'cause people might think my accent's broad. It's fucking not. Like, and people think maybe Adam's accent. No, it's not.
No.
Adam's is not broad. Like, I've got a mate who I bump into very rarely now because he's still over in Pontefract. But when I hear him, I go, bloody hell, I can't understand a word you're saying. He sounds like he's just come up from pit. It's ridiculous.
So they don't use the word the.
No, it's tut.
Or sometimes they miss it completely.
Yeah. The way I describe it is, do you know that sign on the M1 that just says the North?
Yeah.
When you go past that, just the letter H disappears. Because it's not you're going home to your house, you're going home to house. And it's not house, it's house. Or you got that really shit Michael McIntyre joke. It's like, tut lion, tut witch, tut wardrobe. It's like, 1, you can't do accents. 2, fuck off.
It's like Adam made fun, when I moved back to my hometown, Adam made fun of the way I spoke. So I used to say ass. Instead of house, it was like ass, like ass. I was like, that's how I always speak.
Oh, no. Well, have you got a favourite regional accent?
Oh, I quite like Dudley.
Is that Dudley?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Can I tell that story? I can't. I can't do that one. Do you know the story I'm talking about?
I feel like you've mentioned it before.
I can't do it.
I
won't because, one, I think that person still watches videos, and two, it's very, very rude. But that reminds me of a study they do every couple of years in the UK, which is which accent sounds like, the most attractive or most intelligent. And I think the harshest thing that was ever uncovered by that study is that the Brummie accent sounds less intelligent than not talking. It's like, oh, it's so bad. Have you heard that? Well, it's like, okay, what accent sounds the most unintelligible or makes you sound like the stupidest? And they said that saying nothing is actually preferable to listening to a Brummie accent. It's like, oh, that's so rough. That's so mean.
So getting back on track, talking about the BBC.
Yes.
When did they bring in cartoons to fill the dead air?
They've been doing that for a while, but it became like standard practice around the 70s or 80s when it occurred to them that cartoons, like by their nature, tend to just be a couple of minutes long, which was perfect for filling, like that 2-3 minutes of dead air. Because a lot of like the early hanna-Barbera or Merry Melody stuff were just a few minutes long, which meant that you could get an entire self-contained episode of like whatever show it was you happened to pick, which means you could fill up 3 to 5 minutes of dead air with an entire self-contained episode of one of those type of shows.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, even the BBC have to worry about audience retention rates, and while they generally did have access to a wide variety of content just by the nature of being a public service. So, are you familiar with that at all?
Not a lot really.
Well, because the BBC is obviously a public service, they're like exempt from a lot of copyright shenanigans.
Oh, okay.
And there's this great breakdown by I think it's Charlie Brooker for Newswipe that he used to do, where he's just talking about it, and he's like, yeah, because we work for the Beeb, we generally can use whatever we want because they paid a massive licensing fee to every company on earth to let us just use their shit without having to worry about it. And he says stuff like, because of that, I can play a segment of a Beatles song. However, we do have to pay personality rights. If I show you this picture of, and he shows a random dude, we have to pay £50. And every time I show it, we have to pay £50. So I should probably not show it multiple times and continues to just keep showing it to waste the money of the production company.
Oh, that's funny. So because of this, they had a large library of content to choose from?
Yes.
So why pick Tom and Jerry?
Because when they looked at the numbers, they realised that whenever they showed Tom and Jerry shorts during those those brief interludes, audience retention rates were higher than they were when they showed anything fucking else, including stuff like Merry Melodies and Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah.
Which, obviously the British public just like Tom and Jerry more than Bugs Bunny. And they had actual hard numbers to prove that. And yeah, I fully agree because I fucking love me some Tom and Jerry. And that makes sense because Tom and Jerry is awesome. But the BBC came to rely on Tom and Jerry so much that it became the go-to thing to fill time whenever, say, an episode of the news ran long and they needed to, figure out what the fuck they were doing. They'd just put Tom and Jerry on. And it doesn't matter if they couldn't get the entire episode in, they'd just put clips of it in. So they'd just be randomly, you'd be watching TV, the news report went on a minute longer than it should have done. So we need a minute to, reshuffle the schedule. Fuck it, put Tom and Jerry on. And that's just awesome to me. So Tom and Jerry are just on call for the BBC whenever they need someone to fill time. So I like to imagine they're just sat there, just waiting. Waiting, do you need us yet? No, it's good. But they're just permanently just there, ready whenever entertainment is required. And I'm just really in love with the idea that the BBC came to rely so heavily on Tom and fucking Jerry.
See, when I was younger, I used to have this box set of Tom and Jerry on VHS.
I think I had the exact same box set, yes, because I adore Tom and Jerry.
I forgot how violent it was. Thinking back now, I've not seen it for a long time, but I remember it being so violent, especially for kids watching as well.
Well, that's what Itchy and Scratchy was taking the piss out of, wasn't it? That's why Itchy and Scratchy is so over-the-top violent, because it's supposed to be a commentary on, it's so ridiculously over the top, the things that happen to this poor cat, and you find it hilarious, obviously just taken to its logical extreme. But just the scream of Tom as well was blood curdling. Do you know when he got his a mallet hits him on the tail, and it's it's awful, it's terrifying, that poor cat. And there are just so many dark moments in that show that flew over loads of people's heads when they were younger. The famous one is that there's the episode where Tom just fucking dies. But the thing is, it's while Tom's waiting to get into heaven, obviously there's a queue of other cats that's died. And while the guy's ticking people off, you just see a bag of kittens that's wet come up.
Oh,
and it's
no.
And I think the angel cat who's there, he goes, and that's just a bag of kittens that got drowned, and that's in a fucking comedy show for kids. And it completely went over my head. And I think in the same episode, because the plot is Like, Tom has to make up with Jerry and get Jerry to sign a letter saying, I forgive you for all you've done. He gets sent to Cat Hell, which is just him being continually bathed in just this big cauldron of lava while he's being stabbed with a pitchfork. And again, it's a comedy show for kids.
Oh, it's so savage. I saw a clip of Tom and Jerry being used as a meme the other day.
Okay.
Where Tom's going through like the bathroom cupboards and just downing all these pills, and I was like thinking, if kids watch that, would kids, think, oh yeah, that's an okay thing to do? You know what I mean? Like, I know obviously we turned out fine, but it's like, what if children saw that and was like, oh yeah, that'll be fine, and started like being like violent to their cats or something.
Well, you have the Simpsons moment again where they have an episode exactly about that, and it's the one where Maggie hits Homer over the head with a mallet because she sees it in Itchy and Scratchy. Yeah. It's like, there is like, a level of like, parental responsibility that comes into this, but at the same time, you don't expect a show for kids to show like someone like swinging a fucking mallet at someone's head. No. And they have that, and I think there are episodes which they have either edited or when you get the modern releases on like whatever format you can access them, they have like little warnings telling you, look, it was a different time when we made this shit, we're really sorry. Like the famous one is the episode where Tom smokes. Yeah. We have Cowboy Tom.
Oh God! Yeah.
And he rolls a cigarette and smokes a cigarette, and it's like you can't really show a cartoon cat people like just fucking smoking on kids' TV. And then you have like the lady who owns Tom. Yeah. Which is like a really offensive stereotype, but obviously as a kid you don't know. But then you look back and you go, oh, that kind of is. That's really bad. Which is a shame. I really like that character.
Yeah.
And I feel bad now as I wasn't to know.
Yeah.
I wasn't to know like why that character is so fucking offensive.
Yeah, because when you're a kid, you're innocent. You don't understand things. You just think, you just see humour.
But it's little things like that can eke into your personality and shape you as a person. But then you just have some of those top tier comedy moments that I think are just like untouchable in terms of how perfect they are. Like the one of just Tom opening the door and you just have the giant mouse. Do you remember that one? Where like the elephant, like Jerry makes the elephant out to look like a mouse. Yeah, and Tom opens the door and it's like Jerry shuts it, opens it back up and it's a fucking elephant.
I feel like, I don't know if this was from Tom and Jerry, but I feel like there would have been a scene where like Tom's got a shotgun.
There probably is a scene where he has a shotgun.
In the mouse hole or somewhere.
Yeah, and it comes all the way around.
It comes around. Yeah, okay, it's not. Yeah.
It blows like the arse off his tail. That might be a Bugs Bunny Daffy Duck thing.
I know it's that era.
Because Daffy Duck would get shot in the face by Elmer Fudd a hell of a lot.
Oh yeah, but yeah, I remember that. I remember there being a lot of shotgun scenes.
Just like blowing the foot. Do you know like the only reason we think like Nimrod is an insult is because it's like a joke in Bugs Bunny that was too smart. Yeah, so people think Nimrod, you think it sounds stupid, don't it? It's, oh, you Nimrod. It's like, nah. He's a hunter from myth. And Bugs Bunny calls Elmer Fudd Nimrod as a reference to that. And people didn't get the reference. They thought it was just like slang for stupid. So now that word means stupid, but it actually meant you're an amazing hunter.
I've never used that word in my life. Nimrod.
Yeah, we don't. It's an older word, but I just like that.
Yeah,